Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure to like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we have an election coming up on Tuesday. That is the California recall election for recalling Governor Gavin Newsom. I'll be doing another video about that tomorrow, one final video. And then on Tuesday, I will be going live for the election returns, probably when the polls close. So stay tuned for that. But we have an election the week after that's coming up in Canada, little brother to our north, and I feel like I should be analyzing that as well. Last election cycle in Canada, 2019, we did one video on it, and the prediction was not too good, but that's all right because I've done a lot of research on Canadian politics since then. I know exactly how the election process works, and I want to share that information with you guys so you guys know what to expect, what happens when we do our Canadian live stream for the election that will be taking place. I believe it will be on September 20th. So do stay tuned for that. So we're going to get into this. And I feel like it's important to understand why an election is happening. So this up here on the screen is the results from the 2019 election. The Liberal Party won a plurality of seats. However, they did not get enough seats for an outright majority to the point where they would have had to form a coalition to have majority government so they could serve 5 years until the next election. However, that didn't happen. The NDP, which is to the left of the Liberal Party, the New Democratic Party, did not form a coalition with them. Therefore, they were unable to really get much done. They had a minority government. So a new election is happening this month. And it's going to be interesting to see what really happens. I will get into the polling later on. This is not my prediction video. I will make a prediction video again on Canada before the election. Hopefully, we're going to be a lot more accurate this time than last time, but we'll have to see. But I'm pretty confident that I know what's going to happen. And some of you guys might not like it, but we are going to talk about it, the importance of it, the difference within the parties as well. But I wanted to explain first how the election works. So it is not a popular vote system. The Liberals are always saying, we need to be more democratic like Canada. Let's have a popular vote system. And they say that with a lot of different countries, by the way. But Canada is not a popular vote system. The Conservative Party had a plurality in the popular vote in the 2019 election in Canada, but they did not get a majority of seats because it is by riding. And ridings are just like U.S. House districts. It is the same thing. It is first past the post in each district, except there are more parties, such as the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, the Green Party, etc. So that's why it happens that way. Now, if you win a majority of the ridings, you win the election. That's how it's worked from day one. That's how it works right now in Canada. But how exactly do the different parts of the country vote? Well, you have the more First Nations, which is Canada's term for Native American heavy provinces such as the Northwest Territories, Yukon, Nunavut, etc. Those provinces typically vote either Liberal or NDP, but they're not that consequential because they don't have that many people in them. The West, the Prairie provinces, super conservative. I'm sure you guys have heard the memes about Alberta, 51st state. I don't know exactly if they would vote Republican, at least not right away, because Canada's a little bit different, but they are fairly conservative. And if they were used to our healthcare system and they had our media, they absolutely would be voting Republican. Same thing with Saskatchewan. A lot of the rural part of British Columbia also tends to vote conservative as well. Ontario and Quebec are really the swing provinces. Ontario voted heavily for Stephen Harper, who was actually fairly conservative for Canada back in 2011. However, in 2015, voted heavily red for the Liberal Party. Yes, red in Canada is actually Liberal, and blue in Canada is conservative. Don't get misconstrued. It's the U.S. elections atlas colors or like the pre-1980s colors or whatever we used to use. But typically, right-wing parties in the world use blue and left-wing parties actually use red most of the time. But that's a little bit beside the point here. Now, Quebec also has a party called the Bloc Québécois. We'll get into that in a second, but a lot of their votes go directly to the Bloc Québécois party. And conservatives have some ridings in Quebec, but not that many. And the maritime provinces, just like the Northeast in America, tend to vote for the Liberal Party. So that's really how Canada votes as a whole. There are a good deal of swing voters and swing ridings, typically in Ontario, Quebec, parts of British Columbia as well as, parts of the cities and places like Manitoba and obviously Alberta and the cities. They are fairly conservative, but still, some of the ridings in there are up for grabs, as you can see on this map down here. Some seats that are typically contested that are pretty close to each other. But that's really it for the layout of the land in Canada and how it tends to vote. But talking about the parties, because this is going to get interesting, this is what it's going to come down to. The Liberal Party, very similar to the Democratic Party in America, very status quo. They're a little bit to the left of the Democratic Party on economics. They are arguably even to their left on social issues, even though, is that really possible at this point? I'd say they're probably lockstep on social issues. The Conservative Party, however, is also fairly liberal on social issues. They are just a tad more economically, a tad more fiscally conservative than the Liberal Party, but they are not conservative at all. In fact, Andrew Scheer was bad enough. Stephen Harper, he was fairly decent, right? He was a decent PM. Then you have Andrew Scheer. He leaves, and then he gets replaced by Erin O'Toole, who is even worse than Andrew Scheer on the issues, and is a man named Aaron, but not like Aaron. It's Erin. So the name physiognomy is awful. It's a little bit beside the point, but you should take that into consideration. So that's it for the Conservative Party. They are weak through and through. They are not conservative at all. They are nominally conservative. That's just really about it. I don't really see much of a difference. And they also support the jab mandates and the jab passports now. That should tell you a lot about the state of Canada. Bloc Québécois, the Bloc Québécois, they are Quebec nationalists. It's kind of based in a way, and I respect them, although they are kind of liberal in a way as well. They're kind of like liberal nationalists or left-wing nationalists. They're pretty left-wing economically. Socially, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I've heard things about them like supporting burqa bans and things like that. So they're probably more socially conservative than the Liberal Party on average. They're also very nationalist and very patriotic, but their allegiance is more to Quebec than it really is anywhere else. They only run candidates in Quebec, which really makes sense because they're really like a French-speaking only, a Francophone party. You could say maybe they could run candidates in like the Francophone ridings and, near Ottawa or the Maritime provinces, and maybe they'd get some votes there, but it's mainly a Quebec independence thing, the Québécois, and you have to respect them, but it's a regional party, and they did very well in 2019. I don't know if they're going to replicate their success, but we'll really have to see. Then you have the NDP. The NDP is run by Jagmeet Singh. He's essentially Indian Bernie Sanders of Canada. They are essentially to the left of the Liberal Party. They are to the left even arguably of Bernie Sanders, but that is sort of the Sanders party wing up there in Canada, the NDP. And then you have the Green Party, which economically they are more, green capitalist compared to the NDP, but they're also pretty liberal as well. So that's really it for the five parties, but there's also a sixth party, and nobody ever talks about them. And they are the People's Party of Canada. They are run by Maxime Bernier, who almost won the Conservative leadership election before 2019. However, you could argue that there was a lot of pressure against him and a kind of fortification in a way. But he was supposed to lead the Conservative Party of Canada, basically. He didn't. He broke off. He left the Conservative Party. He formed an authentically conservative party. They are libertarian, yes, on a lot of civil issues, but all in all, they are pretty conservative. I mean, it's like probably more like a more conservative type of Rand Paul type of thing. The left will say they're fascistic, they're far right, which that's not true. That's really not true at all. They're probably more in line with like a Rand Paul type who would want to restrict immigration a lot more and be more skeptical of globalism. That's really what the People's Party of Canada stands for. So that's really what you have, and they're the only party that opposes the mandates. They're the only party that opposes the lockdowns. The Conservative Party doesn't stand up for anything. They don't stand up for actual conservatives that live in Alberta or Saskatchewan, to the point where I don't care if the Conservative Party loses, because it's just the same thing. It's the same thing over and over again. And you look at the polls. We look at the polls here. The People's Party of Canada is rising up. Last time they got like 1% of the popular vote or something. They're at 10% in the popular vote and climbing in this one poll. I've seen polls with them in double digits as well. You could look throughout these polls right here. Several polls. Ecos had them at 12. Some of these polls having them close to 9% and rising. That is a good thing. Now, we're still a little ways out for the election. Third parties typically do overperform in polls compared to where they do on election day, but not always. Sometimes we've seen the opposite happen, such as I think Ross Perot in 92, even though Ross Perot in 96 didn't. But again, this is Canada. Things are a little bit different up there, up north, up there in the icebox. But that's really the state of affairs here. You have somebody who's essentially like a mix of John Kasich, Mitt Romney, and Phil Scott all combined into one, or you have an authentic nationalist, patriotic fighter in Maxime Bernier. Now, who do you choose, Canada? Who do you choose? Vote for the PPC. I know it's not my business. I know I occasionally poke fun at Canada because that's what we do, and they do the same thing to us. But the bottom line is, it really doesn't affect me, but take the advice from the Americans. Take strong conservative leadership. Pick them, honestly, because there's no difference between Trudeau and this Aaron O'Toole guy or whatever. There's literally no difference. Okay, maybe your marginal tax rate's going to go down from like 85% or 80% or whatever it is in Canada. I don't even know, but that's beside the point. What I do know is that the PPC is the only authentic conservative party, and if they screw the fake Conservative Party of Canada out of dozens of seats, it will be glorious, and it will be a wake-up call because you're going to have some PPC members in Parliament. You will at least have some representation to fight back against this duopoly of tyranny that we see here. And you will have a Conservative Party that will be forced to listen to your concerns. That is what we need to do here. In a general election, if the Republican is like a Romney tier and you don't vote for them, good, because they don't deserve your vote. If they're not going to be protecting the interests of you, the interests of your family, the interests of the community, and they're nominally conservative, but they're not, they don't deserve your vote. Vote for somebody else, obviously. Because in Canada, there's no difference. Obviously, in America, the definition of a fake conservative is far different, obviously. Because the conservative establishment in America is far less broken than it is in Canada. But seriously, vote for the PPC if you want to save your country. That is a message I'm sending up north to Canada. I lived probably around 30 minutes away from Windsor for a good deal of my life. I've been to Canada several times, and I can tell you it's night and day. The cost of living there is out of control. And these conservatives are spineless, and they're not going to fix your country. The lockdowns are going to continue. So if you are an authentic national populist who lives up in Canada, vote for the PPC. Just do it. In whatever riding you live in, vote for the PPC because they need a big showing. And either way, even if they got 0%, Trudeau probably would find a way to hold on anyways. That's the state of affairs. I don't make the rules. I know Canadians are going to come in here, even some conservatives, they're going to say, why are you Americans coming in and telling us to vote for the third party? It's like, I'm not really telling you what to do. But I will say, if you want to save your country, vote for the PPC. And if they screw over the conservatives, good. It will be glorious. In another 2 years when they have another election, because there'll be another minority government probably, then hopefully you can replace the Conservative Party because the Conservative Party hasn't been around that long. It was the merger of two other parties back in like 2007. So the PPC needs a big showing. Hopefully they will be the party that will rule Canada one day in the future. I don't know, but that's really where we're at. You look at the state of this race. I mean, it seems as if the Liberal Party's probably going to win anyways, to the point where if the PPC screws the Conservatives over, it'll be glorious either way. That's what I'll be watching for. And I think it's going to happen. I think the PPC, if they can break 10%, that would be glorious news. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.